Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Happy Monday. Last week I was cleaning and I noticed a sponge. And so this got me to thinking about sponges. So I realized that in life, we are all sponges. And our sponge is either dried out or it's really moist and damp and able to be used. What happens though is that when our sponge is dry, you know how what happens when the sponge is dry. It's like coarse, it's brittle, you can't use it. And so what happens though is that when our sponge is dry, we start to look at other people whose sponges are wet and we start to wonder like, what are they doing? Why is their sponge, have life and mine doesn't? And instead of just running water on ourselves and nourishing ourselves, we start to want what that other person has to a point where we think, until I get what they have, until I get a new sponge, then I won't be useful. That's a crock of mess. Because really, what it is that when you nourish yourself, when you put that sponge under water, it starts to expand. It starts to come back to life. And so you realize that you have everything you need. The reality of it is that your sponge is cut from the same fabric as somebody else's sponge. So in asking and wanting to be like someone else, it really doesn't make sense because you're cut from the same sponge. And we each need different things to be moist and to be useful. So when wanting someone else's sponge, you're kind of taking the fun out of it because what you need for your sponge to be useful is different than what somebody else needs. And what happens is that we start to think things like the grass is green on the other side. The reason why the grass is green on the other side is because you're not watering your side. When I spend time worrying about somebody else's grass and worrying about somebody else's stuff, my grass gets brown because I'm not watering it. So the grass does look green on the other side only because we're not watering our side. So we can either be like a dried up, crumbly, brittle sponge, or we can be like a sponge that's full of life. The really biggest factor is you. There are a lot of things that you can do to make your sponge more useful and to water yourself, to self-nourish. It might be saying no, it might be saying yes, it might be getting some sleep and some rest. It might be having fun. It might be starting a project. It might be finishing a project. It might be listening to music. I mean, we all have these different ways to get inspired. And so what happens, I think, is that when we hit these walls, instead of just saying, I need to totally throw out what I got, out with the old and with the new. We always say that. Instead of that, it might just be that you just need to revive what you got. You know, wanting a new sponge is like us wanting new clothes every time we wear them. I wear it once, I throw it away. No, I wear it once, I wash it because it's still useful. Same thing with the sponge. It might be hard and dry and brittle, but after like 2 minutes underwater, it's back to normal use. So that's another thing, is that when you're in this place where you're uninspired or you're in a rut, it usually doesn't take as much as you think to get back on track and to get back to your full expansive self. So today, self-nourish yourself. You're a sponge. Water yourself. Nobody else can do it for you. And your sponge is cut from fabric, the same fabric as mine. So I don't need to want your sponge and you don't need to want mine because our lives are all connected anyway and we're all made from the same thing. So think about that today. That's something I've been thinking about. And remember that the grass is greener on the other side only because you're not watering yours. So water your side and make it green. All right, bye.